Mrs. Blay here.
And that's our Christmas sleigh.
Yeah.
I am dressed as a reindeer. This is what reindeer look like.
And I'm Santa Claus. Okay, come on in. Let's do some angles in the unit circle, why don't we?
You saw us do a semicircle on the sled. The angles that we were hitting,
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean, I definitely think a full 180 happened.
Yes. And nobody got injured, so that's a win.
Really a super win.
All right, so angles and the unit circle, our objective is to work with angles in standard position and to find coordinates of points on the unit circle.
Let's just get started, why don't
Let's do
we?
it.
Okay, so first, really quick, before we get started, I want to kind of talk about the unit circle and angles about that. So we have our coordinate and we have our circle. Whenever you learn this in geometry, but a quick preview or review, we have, this is 90 degrees up here, this is 180 degrees, this is 270 degrees, and this is either 0 degrees or 360, okay? And then you can just keep adding, it can just keep going on forever. So 360 plus 90, then 180, then 270, then back to 720, okay? It just can keep going forever. So, and that is the initial side that is going counterclockwise. So, if we go counterclockwise, the terminal side, this is a positive angle. Okay, so this terminal angle right here is 120 degrees. Okay, it goes past 90, it's between 90 and 180. Also, we could talk about the negative counterclockwise, or sorry, clockwise. That was counterclockwise is positive, clockwise is negative. So if we represented negative 120, we would start and we would go backwards. So we would go back negative 90 and then another negative 30 to get our negative 120 degrees. So to go positive, you go counterclockwise. To go negative, you go clockwise. And so your vertex is at the origin and your terminal side is the ray off of your x-axis, the positive x-axis. Okay, so let's talk about finding measures of angles in standard position. So it says, what are the measures of each angle? So if we have A, if you look, we're looking for this angle right here. Well, this is right here on the y-axis, so this is 90 degrees. Okay, so it is counterclockwise and it's a positive, it makes a right angle, so the measure is 90 degrees. Okay, for B, we have, this is kind of, we're going to be using special triangles here. We're not going to get into much detail. We've talked about our special, 45, 45, 90. We've talked about 30, 60, 90 a little bit yesterday as a preview of today. You will go deeper into this knowledge whenever we get into trig and pre-calc. That's your next math class. But if we have this is going clockwise, so this is going to be a negative. So we go negative 90, and then here, okay, this is negative 2, this is down negative 2. We know this is a 90 degree angle. Since these are the same, this would be a 45, 45, 90. So this is a 45 degree angle right there. So that means we go negative 90 and then negative 45. So this angle right here would be negative 135 degrees, okay? So that is how we determine angles based on the figure.
All right, your favorite Algebra 2 reindeer back for a little more practice. So once again, finding measures of an angle. So first thing I like to do is I like to determine, am I going to write this as a positive or a negative? And since this is going counterclockwise, I know I'm writing this as a positive. That just is there to let me know. Then I'm going past the 90, past the 180, and so I know that I've got the 180 and I just got to figure out how much this is. Now Miss Collette already gave that wonderful explanation that we are going over negative 2 and down negative 2, forming a right angle there, so we know that this is a 45 degree angle, and so I would just do 180 plus 45, and that would give me 225. Now you don't need the plus sign there, but that would be my answer for this. my antlers are getting in my way a little bit, but I hope you see my commitment to Algebra 2 through this. All right, so let's look at some more examples. This time, they're wanting you to sketch given this angle. And so on the homework assignment, it will give you an angle, and then it will give you like 4 options, and you gotta select the right one. So the first thing you wanna look at is it positive or negative? That will let you know if you're going counterclockwise or clockwise. Positive, I'm going counterclockwise, and it's 36, so that I know I'm gonna be a little less than halfway between that green line would be like the 45. I'm gonna be a little less than that, and so that would be positive 36 degrees. Then, once again, checking to see if it's positive or negative. That's gonna tell me the direction. It's positive, so I'm going counterclockwise. And this time, remember this is 90, 180, 270, and then 360. And so I know that my angle is gonna be in between 270, 360. You should be able to figure out which one it is. You could also do some quick math. You could just do, 315 minus 270, and that will show you that you're gonna have to go an additional 45 degrees into this quadrant. All right, last one, switch of colors. I've got a negative this time, so I'm gonna go clockwise, 150. I've got my 90, or I guess it'd be negative 90. And I know that I'm going an additional 60 degrees, and so I'm gonna go a little bit past the halfway point, and that would keep us in that quadrant though, because this is negative 180. All right, this should be pretty simple. You just gotta pay attention to details, and I have full confidence that you can figure it out. All right, Miss Collette, I'm gonna do this one. Oh, my bad. Okay, so now the next thing we're gonna look at is what is called coterminal angles, okay? So we said terminal, my antlers are like going all over the place. I'm taking this off, sorry. My hair's looking a little crazy. I'm taking this off too, it's getting a little scratchy. All right, so coterminal angles just means, co means together, so terminal angles that end in the same quadrant. So it says, which of the following angles is not coterminal with any of the others? Once again, my explanation, 2 angles in standard position that have the same terminal side. So 135 going on the positive, it's gonna go past 190 and end here. And then negative 225 ends in the same spot. Those are coterminal angles. So all you would do to determine this is you have to figure out where these end up. So the 300 goes all the way around past 270, ends in this quadrant. Negative 60 is going to go clockwise and end in this quadrant in the same spot as 300. This 60 is going to go counterclockwise and end in this first quadrant as shown there. And then negative 420, this is a little tricky one. You're actually going to go all the way around one time, all right, clockwise all the way around, plus an additional 60 degrees, and so it's going to end in the same quadrant as these first two. So negative 420, negative 60, and 300, we would say that they all three are coterminal. They end in the same quadrant, in the same area, which means that angle 60 would be the only angle that is not coterminal. All right, Miss Collette is going to come and finish off this lesson by talking to us about something kind of complex, but hopefully will be a little less when she finishes.
Okay, so let's talk about sine and cosine of an angle. So suppose an angle in standard position, it has a measure of theta. So again, we have this angle, it's in standard position, and your angle of theta here is 30 degrees. you can find the sine and the cosine of this angle of this coordinate point. So this point right here is like a coordinate XY point in our graph, okay? So we can find what this X and what your X value is and what your Y value is. Think of this as a coordinate plane. We can find what this X and Y value is by finding the sine and the cosine of what theta is, okay? So we will get into this in pre-calc and trig, which is your next math class after Algebra 2. You get into the unit circle so much deeper, but we just kind of want to do a brief preview of what we can do and how this works, how you find that. So if you notice 30 degrees, that is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And so you would use that to figure out the exact actual X and Y values. So to figure out what your X is and what your Y is, your coordinate points, your cosine of theta, in this case is 30 degrees, so your cosine of 30 degrees is your X value, and then your sine of 30 degrees is your Y value. I always think about like, they both have sine, cosine, and sine, but sine is shorter and it kind of sounds like Y, so sine and Y always go together, and then cosine is your X. Another way to think about it is, your cosine is C, that comes in the alphabet before S, and X comes before Y. So X and cosine are together, Y and sine are together. That's always how I remembered it. Figure out a trick that works for you. Okay, so to figure out these X, Y coordinate points, your cosine is 30 degrees and your sine is of the 30 degrees theta. To figure out the decimal form, you can plug these into your calculator. Okay, to figure out the actual points, your radius is 1. Okay, so if we have 1 there, and then your cosine of 30 degrees would be 1 over 2. Your right angle would be here, would be 2 times whatever your X is. And then this would be root 3 over 2. Okay, so your sine would be 1 over 2 and then root 3 over 2. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. That's how I remember the SOHCAHTOA. That's how it all works together. Again, we will go deeper into this with your trig and your pre-calc class, but we wanted to basically talk about cosine of your theta is your X value, sine of theta would be your Y value. Okay, so talking about our 90, negative 180, or 270 are basic. These are our simple ones that we can find that are on your coordinate point. So if we had your circle, okay, our radius here is 1 on all of these. So this coordinate point right up here, we know this is 90 degrees. Okay, so this coordinate point, your X value is 0, your Y value is 1 on your axis. So your cosine of 90 degrees is 0, and then your sine of 90 degrees is 1. Okay, and so this is, your basic, super simple, your 90, 180, 270, 360, how we can figure that out. Okay, this one, if we looked at negative 180, so this is clockwise, negative 180 is right here. So we went negative 1 would be the radius, and then negative 1, 0. So your cosine of negative 180 would be your negative 1, and then your sine of negative 180 would be 0, so that's your Y value. And then lastly, we have 270, which is right here, so that coordinate point would be 0, negative 1. So your cosine of 270 would be 0, and then your sine of 270 would be negative 1. Okay, and so those are the basic finding the sine and cosine of angles. Again, we will go deeper into this in the future, but we wanted to give a quick preview of what to look for, and that's that.
Yes, and if you're scared, there will be no questions on the homework pertaining to this. This is just a little extra, so if you're interested in this stuff, you can look it up on Google. All right, homework. 6 total questions. Good luck. We believe in you.
You got this.
Have a good Christmas.
Okay, bye.